Bermuda is surrounded by water in every direction, yet almost none of it can be used for drinking. The island has no permanent rivers, no natural freshwater lakes, and no large surface reservoir supplying the people who live there. That creates an unusual contradiction. More than 60,000 people live on this small Atlantic island, yet it lacks the natural freshwater systems that many towns and cities depend on. In most places, rainwater gathers into streams, flows into rivers, and eventually fills lakes or reservoirs. On Bermuda, that familiar journey almost never happens. Rain is actually Bermuda's most important natural source of fresh water. The challenge isn't getting rain, it's keeping it where people can use it. Instead of remaining on the surface, much of the water quickly disappears underground. So Bermuda's biggest water problem isn't a lack of rainfall, it's that the island can't rely on rain staying above ground long enough to collect. And the reason lies beneath the surface. The answer begins with the rock itself. Much of Bermuda is covered by porous limestone. Instead of behaving like solid concrete, it acts more like a sponge, filled with countless tiny spaces. When rain falls, much of it quickly seeps into the rock instead of flowing across the landscape. That's why Bermuda never develops the permanent rivers found in so many other places. But the water doesn't simply vanish. Some of it collects underground as fresh water, but not as a giant hidden lake waiting to be pumped out. Instead, it forms a thin freshwater lens resting above the surrounding seawater, because fresh water is less dense. At first, that sounds like the perfect solution. It isn't. In many places, the freshwater lens is only a few meters thick and can be affected by drought, pollution, or pumping water faster than nature replaces it. So while Bermuda does have groundwater, it can't depend on it the way many other regions can. That leaves the island with one obvious question. If rain disappears into the ground, how do you capture it first? The answer begins somewhere almost every visitor sees, but few realize is part of the island's infrastructure. The solution doesn't begin underground, it begins on the rooftops. At first glance, Bermuda's bright white stepped roofs look like a distinctive architectural style. They're so common that most visitors barely give them a second thought. But those roofs were designed to do far more than shelter the people inside. Every rainfall turns them into the first stage of Bermuda's water supply. Instead of letting rain soak into the ground, the roof captures it, channels it across its stepped surface, and directs it into gutters leading towards storage. Rainwater harvesting exists in many parts of the world. On Bermuda, however, it isn't simply an environmentally friendly feature added to a handful of homes. It's built into the way many homes are designed because rain remains the island's most important natural source of fresh water. The size of the roof matters as well. A larger catchment area can collect more rainfall, which is why Bermuda's planning rules link roof area with the amount of water a home is expected to store. Suddenly, the roof has a second purpose. It doesn't just protect the house, it helps supply it. If you enjoy discovering how everyday engineering quietly solves extraordinary problems, consider subscribing. We've got plenty more stories like this. Collecting the rain, though, is only the beginning. Once the water leaves the roof, it still needs somewhere to go. And that's the part almost nobody ever sees. The journey doesn't end when the rain leaves the roof. That's where storage begins. Instead of disappearing into the porous limestone, the water is directed into a tank built beneath or beside the house. From the outside, the building looks completely ordinary. Hidden below is a private reservoir storing water collected from every rainfall. The roof gathers the water, the tank keeps it until it's needed. Neither works without the other. A roof without storage can't preserve the rain it collects. A tank without a catchment area has nothing to fill it. That's why both are planned together. The goal isn't to capture the greatest possible amount of water. It's to store enough to help meet the needs of the people living inside. That changes the role of the house itself. In most places, a home simply provides shelter. On Bermuda, it also forms part of the island's water infrastructure. Every rainfall quietly refills thousands of hidden tanks across the island. And once you zoom out, an even bigger picture appears. This isn't a clever feature found on a few houses. It's the foundation of an island-wide system.
One house collecting rainwater is clever. Thousands of houses doing it reshape how an entire island manages fresh water. From above, Bermuda doesn't depend on one massive reservoir hidden somewhere in the landscape.
Instead, much of its water storage is spread across countless individual properties. Each roof captures part of the rainfall. Each tank stores part of the supply. Individually, they're small. Together, they form a decentralized network. In many parts of the world, water travels for miles before it reaches a home. On Bermuda, much of that journey ends where the rain first lands. That changes the purpose of every building. A house isn't only a place to live. It also helps collect and store one of the island's most valuable resources. This is the real shift in perspective. The remarkable part isn't a single roof. It's thousands of ordinary buildings quietly working together. But even a system this clever has one unavoidable limitation. A roof can only collect the rain that actually falls. Every engineering solution has limits. Bermuda's is simple. A rooftop can't create water. It can only capture the rain nature provides. When rainfall is regular, many traditional homes can rely heavily on their stored supply. But during extended dry periods, every household draws from the same finite reserve inside its tank. Once it's gone, everyone has to wait for the next rainfall. Roof size matters too. A larger roof collects more water, but buildings with higher demand may require far more than their roof can provide. That's why Bermuda doesn't depend on rooftop collection alone. Today, additional supplies come from treated groundwater, desalinated seawater, piped water in some areas, and tanker deliveries when necessary. Those systems don't replace the rooftops, they reinforce them. Because rooftop collection remains the island's first, and most widely distributed, way of capturing fresh water. The real achievement was never creating a perfect system. It was building one resilient enough to work alongside others. And that brings us back to the question we started with. If Bermuda has no permanent rivers, why has it never truly needed them? So why doesn't Bermuda need rivers? Not because fresh water isn't important, and not because the island somehow found a limitless underground supply. It simply solved the same problem in a different way. In most places, rain lands on the ground, gathers into streams, flows through rivers, and is collected farther downstream. On Bermuda, that journey is interrupted almost immediately. The rain is captured before it ever has the chance to become part of a river. Instead of depending on dams, reservoirs, or permanent rivers, Bermuda distributes much of its water collection across thousands of ordinary homes. Each roof captures rainfall. Each tank stores part of the supply. Together, they perform a role that rivers and large reservoirs often serve elsewhere. That's the real purpose of Bermuda's famous white roofs. They aren't simply an architectural tradition. They're part of a carefully designed infrastructure system. The island never changed its geography. It changed the way it works with it. The next time you see Bermuda from above, you probably won't notice the missing rivers first. You'll notice the rooftops. And you'll know you're looking at an island that solved a geographic challenge, not with one massive engineering project, but with thousands of ordinary buildings working together. Some places solve water shortages by building bigger reservoirs. Bermuda solved the problem by bringing the infrastructure to every home. Instead of waiting for rivers to collect the rain, the island captures it the moment it arrives. That single idea transformed thousands of houses into a decentralized water system, one that has supported life on Bermuda for generations while working alongside modern backup supplies. Sometimes the smartest engineering isn't the biggest structure on the landscape. Sometimes it's a system so well integrated into everyday life that most people never realize it's there.